with an interpolation to the Tommy from skip along.
Well, in the invisible landscape, that's what we would suggest. And the invisible landscape was published in 1975.
Here we go. Welcome back to the ZnZerna Music Hour. My name's P.T. Burnham. Tonight we got drones coming out, mostly out of the MPC. I've captured a lot of the G drones that we've been working with, and I just tossed them right into the MPC. So we've got that. We've got, of course, the Esperfield here. 10 electromagnetic coils. We also have some electromagnetic coils pumping some
Is actually a naturally
philosophy stuff that I can just capture.
ESR readout of portions of the DNA, which
portions of the DNA.
So we can manipulate that stuff in the tensor. Hello!
Portions of the DNA.
Clever Parasite, a pleasure to have you here. Love that you're with me this week.
Portions of the DNA, which
Footbags, drink drinks, let's go. Tonight we got some really special stuff. Mostly I'm just gonna let the music do the talking. And I might talk about a few things, I might not, I don't know. I've recently had a couple of mental health victories, a couple of breakthroughs, but I'm not sure I'm ready to contextualize them properly yet, but I might just end up spilling stuff anyways. Shout outs if you interact heavily with your own mind. Jay, Clever Parasite, I know you do. Victory, I don't know if any of y'all have had this, I'm sure many of you have, but I had one of those mornings the other couple of days, fleeting as it is, absolutely, one of those mornings the other days where it was like, I realized that I'd been in a cloud of darkness for months. You didn't even realize how dark it had gotten, and then you wake up and you don't feel dark, and you're like, oh shit, right. This is what it's like to feel. So,
portions of the DNA, which of 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 portions of the DNA, portions of the DNA,
So the main things that I've been doing recently have been taking bits that I can get inside the Esperfield, capturing them into the tensor, messing with them, and then if I really like what I've got, I can easily now, which is wonderful, just basically sample them instantly into the MPC. So my workflow is basically Esperfield, Tensor, also the Rumble of Ancient Times is going into the Akai, so I can sample that. So those two things are going into the Akai. Drums are being handled by the KO, because I just really like the way they sound in the KO. I've been using drum machines for years and years, and I've never liked the way a drum machine sounds as much as I like the KO2. That's, I think, strong words, but so something else that we've got that's going on different tonight is I've got this small modular system, which I've had for a while, but I just haven't had it at arm's length. So now I do. I've got it within reach. And I run a few things. Sometimes I'll take something that I ran through the tensor and also pass it through the modular system. And I can mess with that for extra delay and granular processing. So I hope you're working with good headphones. I gotta wait for the bass to come through loud and clear. Well, the Esperfield is technically as many phonic as you have pickups. So if you can imagine, you know, I can pick up one set of coils with this and another set of coils with this. So it's duophonic right now, duophonic for me. But you could plug in some other ones and have it be like quadraphonic. But the only way that I really get it to play chords and lead is by doing a sort of looper situation where I'll play the chords, I'll have them in the MPC, and then I'll play lead over it, if I ever do that. Honestly, the Esperfield is so sort of large in its spectrum taking up. Some of that's because of the reverb. So we can work stuff like that. I especially like the gestural. I also, you know, I don't buy a lot of new tech right now because I've got everything I need, but I did get these Electro Sloosh pickups. The old pickups that I was working with were these, and these are fine. They'll work absolutely fine. But these definitely give you a little more concentrated area to work with. How's that sound?
Mixing it with no ice.
Thank you, Jay. That's great news, Footbags. Hey, Josh, did you just guys did secondhand clams just open up for Egg? This band Egg? Or are you? They've been coming across my feed regarding like effect chains and I think working with Chase Bliss on a new pedal by them. Who I'm a big fan of Chase Bliss pedals. I don't know, just some weird coincidence. I was like, oh, who's Chase Bliss working on with this new pedal? And it was Egg, and I was like, do I know that band? And it was the same one that you're gonna be playing. Looks like a fun band to play with. I've got different sounds at my disposal ready to disperse little bits of candy. I love, Josh, you understand, and maybe some of you out there understand, I've had MPCs since they were boxes. They didn't light up, nothing like that. They just handled samples and ran the samples. And now we've got these beautiful candy-colored objects that we can play with. Make glitter.
of portions of the DNA which were DNA'd with the help of portions of the DNA which were DNA'd with the help of portions of the DNA which were DNA'd with the help of portions of the DNA which were DNA'd with the help of portions of the DNA which were DNA'd with the help of portions of the DNA which were DNA'd with the help of portions of the DNA which were DNA'd with the help.
So that's running through the Mimeophone.
Portions of the DNA with the help
And we're gonna chop it up with some Mimeophone rhythmic action for sure. Right now it's just acting as an echo. Off camera we've got a cymbal rigged up with some of the electro motors. You can see these blinks happening right here. Those are the triggers happening actually. Mimeophone has a specialized function. It allows you to shift the timing of the delay by basically like octaves. You think about the way that octaves work with pitch. something that's an octave up is twice as fast. Twice as high pitched is twice as many cycles per second, hertz. So if you slow that down into timing BPM, what you get is quarter notes, half notes, 16th notes, and variants on that you can switch between with no kind of Dopplering effect. I'll show you real quick. What's happening is we're switching between delay times, but one of those delay times delay times is so short that it is creating subharmonic frequencies rather than a delay, really. And what is another beautiful thing about the Mimeophone is that whatever happens in those subharmonic delay ranges and in the shorter delay ranges is stored in the longer delay ranges. So when you move into those longer buffers, you're hearing what's happened, including all that subharmonic work. Quite nice. Great way to get rhythmic and tonal variance very easily. Now we can automate the switching of the times by using some signals through these attenuators, which I'm about to do. Totally changes the sound.
About star formation, nuclear cook-down of heavier elements out of lighter elements. And then you get molecules which signify a higher level where more complex systems become possible. And then ultimately
I've got these Q links really well set up for mixing purposes. I like how crystalline and glassy that stuff gets. Erik Akers. This is not something that he really planned out. We were just jamming during the session. And he played this.
suddenly the dimension of culture is about to be, which is orthogonal. The dimension of culture is about
I deeply appreciate it. Thanks, Barry. I really think so too. It's one of my favorites. Every time I include Erik in on the tune, it gets much, much nicer. this thing too. We'll see what goes on with that. We're about to get real experimental. This is going to be kind of different. Let's see. Oh, I gotta split that signal up, huh? Not much effect yet. I've got so much stored now, I can afford to mess around. I like it. It's like I'm a sound bartender, and I'm audio bartender, and I'm glad that you stopped in for a small, quick drink. Shots of this, and I hope your night goes beautifully. They can have what they want, Erica. If they want to steal that, but don't I look like an audio bartender you could trust? Sending those bell sounds now through the Mimeophone. Sun is going down. Time to thank my dust cats. All my digicats. Gonna be posting some new stuff up this week for sure. Erica, thanks for joining us tonight. Melissa Schick, Ben Dasher, Ring Cat, Gerard Stoltz, Kenny Creech, Mama Cat, Sam Seeger, Austin Avalanche Snell, Jen Dudley, and Erik Akers. Big shout outs to Erik Akers on bass tonight. Anna Cat, Wayne Anderson, Austin Cat, and Scarlett Herrera. Dog fuck, good to see you the other night. Hope you get to hear this. Barry, where you at? My Royal Blue. Josh, those drums are for you. Barry Cat, love you very much. Alright, that's it. bar, but I'm staying open a little after hours because this Mimeophone jam is gold. remember when some years ago we talked about methods of glitching out anything really? Like, there was some program that we talked a lot about. I forget what it was called. Stutter Step or something like that. And Mimeophone basically is an easy way to get that kind of sound in addition to doing regular delays. Stuttering, yes. Night. Thank you very much. Easy fills. Brake tweaker. I just love the Mimeophone because it's got certain tracks that it stays on because of its ability to do things in multiples rather than just Dopplering all over the place. And to have that be variable as I send it these signals is just every twist of the knob seems to bring new and wonderful things. there, Barry.